Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Wednesday Night Sports Podcast, your midweek sports update. I am your host, Jordan. This is my co-host, Chris here.
Hello, everyone.
Let's let's just jump right into it. We've got congratulations, Chris.
Super Bowl to discuss.
Yes, congratulations. Your Seahawks are Super Bowl champions for the first time since 2014.
11 years.
When they beat Denver in the Super
time.
Bowls. Yeah, so again, congratulations. The Seahawks obviously won the Super Bowl over the New England Patriots this past Sunday. It was not a very interesting game at all. It was kind of boring. It was kind of just a field goal fest first three quarters of the game till the fourth quarter where it got a little bit more interesting. But yeah, like I said, Chris, from being a Seahawks fan, I'll let you explain how it was from your perspective.
I will say, I think the most nerve-wracking part was like the lead up to the game itself, and then like into the first and second quarters when it was only 3-0. Oh my goodness, I was just on the edge of my seat the entire time. But by the time they got to like 6-0 and then to 9-0, I was like, oh my God, we're having another Panthers game here where we're not gonna score any touchdowns. But I'm so happy that we got the AJ Barner touchdown and the defensive touchdown. It was a great game all in all by the end of it, but it wasn't really pretty at first. Kind of took a minute for, I think, the Seattle offense and the defense to kind of like really get their groove and feel the heat of the Super Bowl lights in Santa Clara. So I think that once they got going, especially in that second half, they really started to assert their dominance more, and just the amount of times that Drake May went 3 and out, man, that was crazy. Like by like the fifth or sixth one, I was just like, this is ridiculous. So yeah, and I mean they got to us plenty of times too, but we still managed to get points on the board, and that's what did it at the end of the day. Jason Myers, man, there was a part of me when they were getting ready to announce Super Bowl MVP, I was like, what if they bring Jason Myers out? Because that was an incredible performance by him. I think he scored 15 of their 29 points, so that's over half of the points that they scored were from the special teams unit, which is also nuts.
Exactly.
Just overall an insane end to the season. I couldn't be prouder of them. I think this kind of goes to show that like working as a team is always going to kind of give you that edge that, hey, maybe you're a team that has a couple of really cool star players. If you're not working as a team, you're not going to get very far. It definitely felt like a group effort overall from the Seattle Seahawks. It was awesome.
No, I completely agree with you. And I think, if anything, this Super Bowl showed us two things. One, coaching matters extremely, and defense matters extremely. I think this whole Super Bowl, or not the Super Bowl, these whole playoffs have kind of showed us that defense really matters. Because, again, you look at like C.J. Stroud, and you look at Bo Nix, and you look at even Lamar Jackson. They're all very good quarterbacks, but again, like they were carried by their defense. And even Drake May, same thing. Like he's an okay quarterback, but I don't think he's as good as everyone makes him out to be. And again, I think their defense really led them. The New England defense got them to the Super Bowl. The Denver Broncos defense led them as far as they did. Same thing with the Houston Texans. They had the number one defense all year, I believe, the Houston Texans. And look at them. Like, I don't know. Yeah. It's just
absolutely. It's when all those pieces come together,
Exactly.
And that's the thing, I think, that makes Seattle such a Super Bowl-worthy team, is that they're able to find a way to win, even if it's in a non-traditional way, right? Like, they're finding a way to win with their kicker, And, hey, that, at the end of the day, we're just going to remember who won, Doesn't really matter how you win it. So,
exactly.
That's kind of like, I don't know, my philosophy on it right now anyways.
No, I completely agree. It doesn't matter. History books just shows who wins, and also I kind of agree with you. I wouldn't be surprised if the kicker won the MVP, because it really just, and also you consider the extra points too that he kicked on those field goals. So yeah, he had more than 15 points. He had 17 points at the end of the day. So special teams matters, and like you were saying earlier, it really just the team coming together and playing as a whole, like the offense, the defense. Even Sam Darnold, I think, in his press conference after the game said that he didn't have his best game, but the team kind of picked him up and carried the rest of the team. Yeah. So you look at both of these head coaches, as I just mentioned, both coaches from both teams are within what Mike McDonald's in his second year, Mike Vrabel is in his second or first year as head coach. It just goes to show, like I said, head coaching definitely does matter in the NFL. It takes a huge, like, Mike McDaniel came in and had really big shoes to fill, Pete Carroll's shoes, and he, like I said, he's done a great job, and he's led them and won a Super Bowl in his second year. So yeah, I'm sure you guys, like I said, were pretty nervous when he first came in. And
oh yeah, absolutely. I remember talking to you about it, I think the week that it happened, and just being like, man, we lost Pete Carroll and Bobby Wagner and Russell Wilson, like, all at the same time, pretty much, you know. Well, actually, no, I think Russell Wilson was the year before, right? I think we had a year with Pete and Gino, but like, there's just so much changing in Seattle at that time that it was like, man, I don't even know what the team looks like now, you know. So I'm just so incredibly proud of the team that it's become since then.
Exactly. And speaking on
a
that,
completely different team now.
that's what I was just about to say. And speaking on that, congrats to the GM John Schneider for being able to do that. He's the only general manager in NFL history to be able to take the same team to the Super Bowl with two completely different rosters. There's not a single player on the roster that obviously made the Super Bowl in 2014 or 2015. So yeah, congrats to him. And like I said, being able to rebuild the team, like you said, basically from the ground up, new head coach, new team, new everything, and he's able to make it to the Super Bowl and win again. So congrats to him. Congrats to, like I said, the Seahawks players on making it that far. And like I said, you guys looked very dominant. The next question is, like you said, what happens to the Seahawks next year and the Patriots next year? Like I said, what's the outcome for next year? What are you thinking?
I'm curious to see, honestly, more so how the Patriots are going to adjust after this, because you know, they're a team with a long Super Bowl history, and you know they're not going to want to be out of the playoff picture for very long. It's going to be interesting to see how they adjust in the off season to kind of maybe course correct a little bit, because I mean, they got to the Super Bowl. That's a huge feat in and of itself, whether you win or lose. But you know, obviously they're going to want to win one here eventually. So what are they going to do to adjust? I wonder how it's going to go with Drake May. That's, I think, the biggest X factor with the Patriots right now, is what they do with him. How Drake May himself kind of course corrects after this loss. Seeing what he does in the 2026 season is going to be very telling, I guess, just for, you know, where the franchise is going to be going for the next couple of years. And I know we're going to talk about this more later, but I think whoever Seattle decides to go with for their offensive coordinator, that's going to play a big role in what they're doing in the 2026 season. Yeah, this happens every year with the biggest teams, and I know everyone has, you know, a story about their offensive coordinator leaving, and then I don't know, I've seen it happen with the Eagles and with the Lions, where their offensive coordinator leaves and then, you know, shit kind of hits the fan afterwards. So I don't know, I am worried about that. I'm kind of curious to see who they select to be the Seattle offensive coordinator now that Clifton Kubiak is going to be going over to the Las Vegas Raiders. But that, I think that's going to be the biggest thing at the end of the day. I'm curious to see what happens in the draft, you know, and all of that stuff too. But I mean, we already have a Super Bowl winning team. I can't imagine many big roster adjustments are going to be made in the off season, provided that all the key players still stay.
Exactly, and we'll dive deeper into all of that when we go into our division kind of breakdowns that we're going to be doing. Spoiler alert, coming up, our next few episodes will be division breakdowns. We're going to be doing the NFC North, NFC West, just basically every division breakdown, and like you just said, kind of breaking down free agents, who's leaving, who's coming, stuff like that, and who they could possibly be drafting. So preview on that. Yeah, as you just mentioned too, I think both teams are in really good positions to be making the Super Bowl and making the playoffs again. Both teams are very young. Obviously, I mean, like, besides Cooper Kupp, Stephon Diggs, obviously there's a few vets on the team, but on both teams. But either way, like I said, I think the core, like you said, the core of the group is pretty young, and both teams have young coaches. Like, I know Seattle signed Sam Darnold 3 year deals. Yeah, I think so. So they have him for the next few years. So again, I think both teams are sitting pretty well to be able to make at least make the playoffs next year, and like I said, for the next following years. Again, and like you said, it is hard losing your head or offensive coordinator. Like again, you just mentioned the Lions went through it this year with Ben Johnson going to the Bears and being their head coach, and we saw what type of success the Bears had after coming off such a bad season the previous year. So as I've said before, head coaching makes a huge deal, and I honestly think like, obviously the Lions had a down year and this and that, and I think the offensive coordinator was a big deal, but I really think if you have a good head coach in foundation, that's why the Lions were still even in contention. Like, yes, we didn't make the playoffs, but we were very close and in contention for it, still like a game or two away. So I think, like I said, head coaching just matters way more than I think people give credit to, because again, if it wasn't for Dan Campbell, I think the Lions would have collapsed this year. Again, I'm just kind of going off my own team bias, but like I said, same thing with Ben Johnson. The Bears were a terrible team, and Ben Johnson comes in first year and they make the playoffs and look like a completely different team. So
no, exactly, and that's kind of what we had with Clint Kubiak too. Honestly, I don't know. We'll know in a year or two, I feel like, just how much of an effect Clint Kubiak had on the Seattle Seahawks this season, like the full extent of it. But yeah, it'll be really curious to see, I don't know, just how the Raiders fare, how the Seahawks fare with this whole switch up. It's coming into next season. It's going to be really exciting, because especially the Raiders, to me, were always a really tough team. It'll be cool, hopefully, to see some grit back in them after their really lackluster 2025 season. But I would like to ask you, though, I feel like this would be a perfect time to ask it. What would you say are like the 2 or 3, no particular order, biggest things that the Lions would need to do to see success in 2026?
oh man, like you said, we'll dive deeper into it a little bit more when we get into the actual shows, or the actual division breakdowns. But I think first off, we need to nail the offensive coordinator hire, which we already hired Drew Petzig from the Cardinals. So again, we'll see there. I'm a little interested to see what he's going to do with the team, but that's besides the point. The next thing I think is the offensive line. Jared Goff was under a lot of pressure this year. I think he's had more sacks than he has had in his entire career. So I think we need to get the offensive line, and then the defensive line, same thing. Aiden Hutchinson's good, but we don't have enough pressure on the defensive line. Like, he needs some help, and we need to get a little bit of help up there. So I think it really starts in the trenches, because as you mentioned with your team, like, I think we have the core players. I think we have like enough skill set players in place. It's just we need to solidify the offensive and defensive line to make sure that everyone can play to their potential. So transitioning, as you previously mentioned, the offensive coordinator of the Seattle Seahawks, Clint Kubiak, is going to be the new head coach of the not the Oakland Raiders, the head coach of the
I almost did it earlier.
the head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders, which honestly I think he's in a really good spot. As we mentioned before in our previous episode, we asked which of the opening head coaching spots you would want to take, which at the time was the Browns, the Cardinals, and the Raiders. So that's what we're about to discuss. But either way, I said the Raiders because they have the number 1 overall pick. They have Tom Brady as a partial owner, and I think that's kind of just super beneficial in itself. The Raiders are in a good position to... I know they're in a tough division with the Denver Broncos, the Chiefs, the Chargers. They have a very tough division. But I think that the Raiders, like I said, are set up to be successful for the future. I know, like I said, you get to watch Clint Kubiak kind of design this offense all season. So what do you think about Clint Kubiak going to Las Vegas, Chris?
I wish him the best of luck. I'm going to miss him so much. I don't want him to leave. But, it makes sense, given that he's a Super Bowl winning offensive coordinator, that other teams would be shopping around for a head coach, and they'd obviously be looking at him. So I wish him all the best with his move to the Las Vegas Raiders. That being said, I think, he could bring the magic, honestly. Like, he definitely brought a whole edge to Seattle this past season. And seeing him over at the Raiders is going to be really interesting. I'm probably going to be watching more Raiders games next season than I ever have, honestly, just because I'm curious to see what he does. There were so many crazy plays that he put together for the Hawks this past season. So many, like, just creative screen passes and stuff that you wouldn't expect, and it was really cool to see all of that on full display during the playoff season too, most recently. So
Hmm.
I'm sure he's going to be bringing some crazy ideas over to Vegas, and it'll be cool to see what he does. Okay, so he's going to have a rookie quarterback. It might be like a Ben Johnson, Caleb Williams situation with
Hmm.
the Raiders now, right? So yeah, honestly, I think they'll probably be one of the more exciting teams to watch now that you put those two pieces together. Yeah, so I'm excited to see what the Raiders do in the new season.
Yeah, and I think you should just be happy that he didn't go to a division rival as Ben Johnson did
Oh,
to the
yeah,
Bears. So
totally.
moving on to the other head coaching hires, we have the Arizona Cardinals are hiring Mike LaFleur from the LA Rams. He was the offensive coordinator there. He is the brother of Packers head coach Matt LaFleur. Yeah, like I said, I don't really know too much about him. I know he's been the offensive coordinator under Sean McVay, and pretty much anyone who's been under Sean McVay has been sought after for a head coach. And I don't really know what the track record is for assistants that have been hired from under Sean McVay. So we'd have to kind of look into that and take a look. But either way, yeah, I'm interested to see. I think the Arizona Cardinals have a decent offense. They just were kind of riddled with the injuries last year. So we'll see. I know they're in your division, so you've kind of seen them a little bit more than I have. What do you think about Mike LaFleur going to Arizona, Chris?
I think it's a good idea. Again, I think I said this last episode. I'm just someone who wants to see the NFC West continue to be the toughest division in the league. And Rams, I believe, had the #1 scoring offense of last year. You can't tell me that Mike LaFleur didn't, in some way, have something to do with it. I know that Sean McVay is a coach that likes to call all the plays himself, so the offensive coordinator doesn't usually have a part in that at the Rams like other teams will. So I bet if I was Mike LaFleur and I just got a head coaching position, I would be gung-ho excited for it, and especially in an NFC West team like the Arizona Cardinals. And he has Kyler Murray on top of that. I feel like we could see some really cool developments coming out of Arizona. But that remains to be seen. I think that like seeing success with the Raiders and Kubiak is a little bit more of a lock than LaFleur and the Cardinals. But I'm very excited to see what happens there.
No, I'm very excited, and I kind of agree with you too about the whole like wanting your division to be tough. I've kind of always said that. Like the NFC North has always been a very tough division, and I kind of like that. Like I don't want to be the NFC South where you're scraping in with a losing record into the playoffs, or just like every team in your division has a losing record, but you have a winning record. Like I don't know, that just doesn't seem fun to me. Like you want your division to be tough. You want those games, those division games every year to be tough. Like it's
you want to have the stakes, and the only way you have stakes is if everyone's tough. So
exactly. So what do they say? Iron sharpens iron.
Sharpens iron.
Yeah.
What do you think about the Cleveland Browns hiring Ravens offensive coordinator Todd Monken?
That's a really interesting one because the Ravens offense was kind of interesting this year. Lamar Jackson was in and out of the starting lineup this year. So they had to make do with like working with what he had in the offense. And when your starting quarterback goes down, that kind of really limits your play calling abilities. So I'm interested to see. The Browns are always a situation. We've mentioned it before about the Jets just being kind of a shitty organization, and they just kind of suck the life out of everyone. And I'm interested to see what happens with him in Cleveland. And again, Cleveland's one of those teams where they're just like the Lions. They, I think, have the second longest Super Bowl drought or championship drought. I think the Lions are at 68 years. I think they're at 60 years or something like that. Again, I'm rooting for them. I think it would be cool to see the Browns be good in the NFL, but it's just like when you hear the Cleveland Browns, you just think of dog shit, unfortunately. So
Yep. No, I completely agree.
Like I said,
there was a year or two where they were pretty good, weren't they?
Yeah, when they had Baker Mayfield, who's now in... He literally led them to the playoffs and won their first playoff game in years, and they shipped him out of town. That's another just a Cleveland Browns thing, and they brought in Deshaun Watson for the biggest NFL contract, or biggest contract in NFL history, and he just likes to... But yeah, so that's the new head coaching hires. The last thing we want to discuss today was the NFL Honors Awards. Obviously with the end of the NFL season comes the NFL Awards, where they give out the MVP and all of those other good awards. And we just wanted to kind of run through them and give our opinions on them. And first off, obviously we have Matthew Stafford winning the MVP for the first time in his career, spending a lot of time in Detroit. Obviously, I've watched the entirety of his first half of his career, of him in Detroit. And like I said, I could talk about so many stories he's given me over the years. So I think he definitely deserved it after all these years, and the year he just put up at the age he is. Like, I think, yeah, he deserved to win MVP. And I'm excited to see him come back for another season and, like I said, win another Super Bowl. I remember when the Lions beat Matthew Stafford and the Rams. It was a very bittersweet moment, as that was the Lions' first playoff win in years, and it had to come at the expense of our quarterback that we traded for. Again, that's a different topic for a different day. I'm just kind of rambling. Yeah, Matthew Stafford, like I said, I'm just very happy to see him win the NFL MVP. I think he deserved it. And again, I know he's kind of a division rival for you, Chris. So what do you think about Matthew Stafford winning the MVP?
That is like the most loaded question you could ask me, Jordan. I'm happy for him. The short answer, I'm happy for Matthew Stafford, especially like kind of as you said, after everything that he did for the Detroit Lions over the years, and then the move to the Rams more recently, getting the Super Bowl and now MVP. It's definitely something that he deserves. I feel like I might question why it's this year over other years and stuff like that, but I guess that's neither here nor there. Overall, I think it kind of adds to that complexity of the NFC West being a tough division. Like, you got our big rivals over there with the MVP of last year. Like, that's going to be that'll develop into some crazy matchups going into the 2026 season. But yeah, overall, I'll say short answer, yeah, I'm happy for him. Kind of think that, I don't know. I think my issue is more with just these awards in general, having them occur before the Super Bowl, but kind of before things are, really ironed out for the season. I feel like some of these awards might have changed if the Super Bowl results, had happened prior to the awards being given. But I'm not the one who gives out these awards, so I can't really speak on that. But yeah, Matthew Stafford, he had an incredible year, and I think the offense for the Rams is a large part because of his doing. So yeah, more power to him.
No, I agree. And obviously it was very evident Matthew Stafford's always been an amazing quarterback. As, like I said, his first year out of Detroit, he ended up winning a Super Bowl in LA. So, yep. And then for the coach of the year, we have Mike Vrabel. I don't know why I have such a hard time saying his name every time. But yes, the head coach of the New England Patriots, which rightfully so. He led them to the Super Bowl, and they've again been kind of a shitty franchise over the last few years since since Tom Brady left, and Bill Belichick eventually ended up retiring from the NFL. So Mike Vrabel is a former linebacker for the Patriots, so obviously it's kind of a perfect fit for him to come in and be the head coach. He won two Super Bowls, I think, with the Patriots with Tom Brady back in the day. So you always love a former player coming back to be a head coach of the team. And again, I think he definitely deserved it. So what do you think about that, Chris? Like I said, you just played him in the Super Bowl.
This is the one where I'm going to be a little more brutally honest with. I think this award belongs to Mike Macdonald, like hands down, like 1,000%. And I think having these awards before the Super Bowl also goes to show, because Mike Vrabel, he doesn't have a Super Bowl. I'm sorry, Mike Macdonald does though, and he has been a stellar coach for the past 2 years. Like, I think this award absolutely belongs to Mike Macdonald. I honestly, I understand that Mike Vrabel brought the Patriots to the Super Bowl, but like, I don't know, just seeing and kind of having a really close eye on everything Mike Macdonald's been doing over this past season. I thought he had a lock on Coach of the Year, and I think it's an upset that Vrabel even got it.
No, I completely agree with you about the awards. I think they should be given out as soon as the season is over, before the playoffs begin. Or I think this should be given out after the Super Bowl is over. They vote on the entirety of the season, or they vote on just the regular season. Like I said, do it immediately after the season is over, and then start the playoffs and go from there. Because I completely agree with you about Mike McDaniel winning head coach, because I don't think anyone before the season had the Seattle Seahawks going to the Super Bowl, or even, like you said, I think maybe they had them as a playoff team, but I don't think anyone had them making the Super Bowl or even the NFC Championship this year.
No, I mean, in all fairness, I think you could probably say the exact same thing about the Patriots. And so people who wanted Mike Vrabel to win head coach, I mean, that definitely is a reason for why he got it. But I don't know, just watching Mike McDonald, that guy is so calculated, and the way he strategizes and got that whole team to work together. You just saw, I don't know, again, going back to my thoughts on the Super Bowl itself, it was such a team effort, and it would not have been possible to operate that team like that without Mike McDonald.
When you sit back and look at it, it's really hard to choose between them because both of them had really big shoes to fill. I know Mike Vrabel, obviously there was a kind of a little bit of a buffer with Jared Maya, or was it? But either way, like, he's basically filling Bill Belichick's shoes, which is a huge head coach. And same thing, Mike McDaniel's coming in and filling Pete Carroll's shoes, which again, they're both huge shoes to fill, and they're both teams have kind of been stagnant the last few years. So again, you could argue for both head coaches, and I totally see both sides. Talking about being biased, and if we want to move on to the next position, we have the AP Comeback Player of the Year, who Christian McCaffrey won the award. And again, I completely understand the argument for him and the injury he had and the season that he had this year. I completely understand. But I also, again, being a biased Lions fan, I think that Aiden Hutchinson should have had this award. I think he was coming off a injury that a lot of people said was career ending. Some people said that he might never play football again. It was really horrific. I remember watching the injury. It was just bad. And I'm not saying Christian McCaffrey's wasn't, but either way, I just think for Aiden Hutchinson to have possibly a career-ending injury and to come back and have one of probably the best season of his career, and Christian McCaffrey, which again is a really good running back, and we all know that, and he had a 2,000+ yard season this year. I don't know. I'm not saying he didn't deserve it, but I think when you're talking about comeback player of the year and the status of the injury, I think Aiden Hutchinson should have won that award. But again, that's just me being a biased Lions fan. So, but then again, I know he's a division rival for you. So what do you think about Christian McCaffrey winning that award?
I don't know Aiden Hutchinson as well as I know Christian McCaffrey, and I will say this, and I'm saying this in all of my Seahawks get up and everything coming off of the Super Bowl, that I have the utmost respect for Christian McCaffrey. I think he's just one of those monsters on the field. We're talking about someone who goes for 1,000 receiving yards and 1,000 rushing yards. Like that is just unbelievable to me when I think about that stat. So I don't know. I think given everything that happened to the Niners this year, and hey, if those playoff games had gone, or the Week 18 game and the division round, if those games had gone a little bit differently, I think that we would be in much more agreement about Christian McCaffrey being the comeback player of the year. It just unfortunately just didn't go that way. But with the NFC West just having so many powerhouse teams this year, it just kind of makes sense that they'd be looking at the players in those teams for a comeback candidate. I don't know, it just kind of feels like a shoe-in, especially just given all the injuries that the 49ers had. I would probably have argued that George Kittle would have been an option too if he hadn't been injured again in the playoffs. It's I don't know. I totally see it. I totally see it. And honestly, I give so much love to Chris McCaffrey. I think he's a monster. And he's really fun to watch. So I don't know. It makes sense to me.
Like I said, I get it. I'm not saying he shouldn't have. I'm not saying he shouldn't have won it. He doesn't deserve it. But I just think, like I said, again, and I'm a little bit biased, obviously, being a Lions fan. So I'm having a biased opinion. But I just think the status of the injury and, like I said, the season that he had coming back, I think Aiden Hutchinson should have won it. But regardless, that's just me being a biased Lions fan. So let's just kind of run through these. We'll do a speed run real quick on the rest of the awards. So the AP Offensive Player of the Year, obviously, JSN.
Jackson Smith-Njigba.
Seahawks player. I think that is completely fair. I think it definitely deserved it. He almost broke Calvin Johnson's record for single season, which we'll get into in the next award. A very long-standing record was broken, but yeah, what do you think about JSN winning Offensive Player of the Year?
Absolutely deserved it. I even think he could have been an MVP candidate. I really wanted him to beat the record, but yeah, he came up just short of that. Arguably, I think if we had seen more of like a slugfest in the Super Bowl, he might have broken it. But man, yeah, no, totally deserved. I think he is like the prime candidate for Offensive Player of the Year this season. I don't really think anyone aside maybe Puka Nacua comes even close to him. So, yeah, totally deserved.
No, I completely agree. Like I said, and honestly, it's pretty crazy to me that Calvin Johnson's record hasn't been broken, considered he did it in 16 games, and now that there's 17 games a season. I know Julio Jones almost broke it a few years
That's
ago.
just more impressive.
Honestly, yes.
Yeah.
Like, I know Cooper Kupp was, I think Cooper Kupp was close a year or two ago, a couple of years when he was with Matthew Stafford. So, again, that record's been very close to being broken a lot, but has not yet been broken. So, I'm sure it's going to be in the next couple of years, but I'm interested to see who's going to do it. Maybe it'll be JSN. He'll do it in the next couple of years with Sam Darnold. But, again, moving on, that would be very cool. The AP Defensive Player of the Year. Speaking of records being broken, Myles Garrett, he won the Defensive Player of the Year, which, again, rightfully so. I think there's no argument here. He broke the sack record, which has been standing for a long time from Michael Strahan, and when he was with the Giants. Yeah, I guess, what do you think about Myles Garrett winning Defensive Player of the Year?
I think it's another shoe-in scenario. He's just kind of been one of those big names. Again, I'm not super familiar with the Browns, so I feel like I don't have as much to say on it as I would with like JSN or Matthew Stafford. But I think it's totally deserved. Yeah, he's one of those guys.
The Browns were terrible this year, and the only highlight was Myles Garrett. And honestly, I'm surprised, like I said, because, again, like you said, I'm not super familiar with the Browns and their roster, but I don't think they have a lot of firepower on the defensive line besides Myles Garrett. So him getting to that sack record is honestly super impressive. And it's been standing for a long time. Michael Strahan's had that since, like, I feel like 2005 or 2006. Like, it's been a really long-standing record. So, like, happy for him for breaking that finally, and we'll see if anyone else will ever be able to break that. I'll be interested to see. But again, just kind of speed running the last few. We've got the Offensive Rookie of the Year was Teteria McKillen. I don't think I said that right, but the Panthers wide receiver, which, again, Panthers kind of came out of nowhere. They were pretty good this year. Everyone thought they were going to be bad, but yeah, like I said, I'd have to look more into him, but I'm assuming he deserved to win Rookie of the Year.
I don't have a lot to say about the Panthers, but I do know that they were a huge thorn in our side during that regular season game that we had with them. I know largely a lot of that was, McMillan being there too, so it makes sense to me that it's him.
Yeah, I think he was the leading wide receiver for the Panthers this year. So being a rookie, yeah, like I said, that has a big effect on the team. And then the Defensive Rookie of the Year was Carson Schwegner, the Browns linebacker. I don't think I said his last name correctly either, but I apologize for that. But yeah, again, like we were just saying, the Browns defense was pretty good this year, and again, I can't really say that I followed him too much or saw too much of his stats, but congrats to him for winning the Rookie of the Year. Chris, what are your thoughts on that?
I'm happy for him. I feel like, I don't know, just as a Seahawks fan, I feel like Nicky Manwari should have been, I mean, I'm sure he was in the running. He was awesome, but like, especially during the playoff season, he really stepped up and was causing trouble for all of the Seahawks opponents. I think that again, if the awards were held after the Super Bowl, we'd probably be talking about him. But it is what it is. He's going to continue to grow at Seattle, and I'm excited to see what he does. But yeah, congrats to Carson though for the win.
For sure. And last up, we have the Walter Payton Man of the Year Award, which is a huge nomination. And the winner of that this year was Bobby Wagner, former Seattle Seahawk linebacker, now with the Washington Commanders. And I feel like this award always kind of goes to like a vet, like a good, like, I've never seen it go to somebody that's only been in the league for like less than 5 years. Like, it always goes to like someone who's been in the league for a pretty long time, and obviously this is due to their contributions outside of the NFL, what they do in their community, what they do for their surrounding cities and area and everything like that. So again, I'm not 100% sure what all Bobby Wagner has done, but again, I know he's a vet, and I know he's always been kind of well received in the community. He's always been known to do like reach out supporter of his environment. So yeah, what are your thoughts on him winning Walter Payton Man of the Year?
Oh, I'm so happy about it. I mean, I was heartbroken when he left Seattle, or when they cut him, I believe.
Yeah.
But he's a Seattle legend forever. He's just one of those guys, part of the original Legion of Boom team. So yeah, I have the utmost respect for him. So he, yes, absolutely deserves this award. Super happy for him.
Hell yeah. Alrighty. Well, yeah, that's gonna do it for today. Like I said, we've got the Super Bowl, which once again, congratulations to you, Chris, and your Seattle Seahawks for being the Super Bowl champions of the 2025 season. I would say I wish you guys luck next season, but we are in the same conference, so I unfortunately can't say that to you yet. So
that's okay. That's okay. I look forward to seeing you in the playoffs next year.
Of course, as do I. But yeah, we're gonna have a lot of things to cover for this off season. We've got a lot of big dates coming up. But as I mentioned earlier in the show, we are going to be breaking down every division one by one over the next episodes. So yeah, we'll start with my home division, the NFC North, in the first episode starting next Wednesday. And
that's going to be so much fun.
It will be. Again, we're going to be breaking down just kind of who's leaving, who might possibly be coming, who we might be drafting, just kind of, what we need to do, and or what every team in the division needs to do going forward to have a brighter future in the next season. So again, we want to thank you if you've tuned in this far. We have another NFL season under our belts. Congratulations to the Seattle Seahawks for being our champions for another season till this time next year. And yes, once again, thanks anyone for tuning in. We appreciate it, and we will see you in the next one.
All right, bye everyone.